So with that, Jess, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do this.
All right. Rapid fire time. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame opens the season at Miami, August 31st, and it's blank that Notre Dame's last win at Miami against the Hurricanes was in 1977.
It's shocking and it's a little bit concerning at the end of the day, especially if you're one of those superstitious people. But the thing I need to do is figure out how many times they've actually played at Miami in that span. Because if it's like 2 games, then who really cares? But I'm trying to
They've
figure
lost
out.
five straight. They've lost five straight at Miami, dating back to their last win there in 1977. Helped you out.
Yeah,
They went up there. There was a big gap in between games in Miami. Because, with 2017 was obviously the last time. That's been 8 years ago. But before that, the series ended. 1989 was the last previous time. So there's obviously a big void in between.
so it's shocking. That is my word, but I'm not worried at the end of the day because Notre Dame has something called Marcus Freeman, and this football team is just at a completely different level than what it's been the last 20 years. And I think this will kind of play into our next question as well. So I won't go too deep, but again, that's Marcus Freeman. That's the difference I think that we're going to see is Marcus Freeman.
It's crazy when you think about it, is what it is. The fact that they, haven't won there in Miami since 1977 because of the fact that you did have Lou Holtz coaching, and like they even lost the year after winning the national championship against Miami. And let's face it, some of those games were pretty ugly. The 2017 game was pretty ugly. Joe is saying in Miami Stadium or the alternate stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, that used to be, I think, Blockbuster Stadium, whatever, like the current stadium where they play now, and then the old Orange Bowl is where they played in the 80s. So 2 different stadiums, but the only one so far is the one, of course, where they beat Penn State last year. So I'm sure that that'll at least have some effect on this year's team as well. The fact that they did just play a massive game against Penn State in the Orange Bowl in that same stadium last year. So the follow-up question is, you were alluding to this, what makes you the most confident that this trip to South Florida is going to be different than the last 5?
I think what makes me the most confident is you can pretty much go position group by position group and say that you feel you're more confident about what Notre Dame has. And not only can you go position group, you can go head coach, you can go offensive coordinator, you can go defensive coordinator. Maybe it's a toss up in quarterback because, CJ Carr doesn't have a ton of game experience, but I think when it's all said and done, he'll end up being a better quarterback than, Carson Beck. I think Notre Dame's offensive line is better. I think Notre Dame's wide receivers are better. Obviously, their running backs are better. Defensive side of the ball, their linebackers are better. The secondary is better. You could maybe, say a toss up on the defensive line. But again, this Notre Dame team is just in such a different position than what they've been in the past. And we've said it before, the national championship was premature in our opinion. And I think we're really on the precipice of the best football that we're going to see out of Notre Dame. Like, I think Notre Dame's probably going to go on like a nice, 5-6 year run here. As long as Marcus Freeman is at Notre Dame, I just think they're in a different stratosphere of football.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, what happened 35, 36 years ago obviously has nothing to do with this team. And what happened even 8 years ago has nothing to do with this team. To Michael's point, part of Michael's point that he's making, and he's saying, how many wins does Coach Freeman have in the state of Florida? He has nothing to do with those teams. That's exactly right. In the coach's results, he wins in Florida. And I mean, ultimately, that's the difference right now is this team is ready for it. I think a huge factor, one, to your point, Notre Dame's roster is just flat out going to be better than Miami's. Now, that doesn't mean Miami isn't going to have good players, and some players on the Miami roster won't be better than some of Notre Dame's players, but across the board, when you've got the 22 guys on the field, I think it'll be pretty much a 70 to 75% advantage in Notre Dame's favor most of the times in terms of who the better players are. And two, this is my next point, ND Sailor. They went to Texas A&M last year, one of the toughest places to win for a visiting team. And that's going to, like, just about everybody on this roster, obviously, like everybody except for the freshmen, got to experience that environment. Even CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie, who, even though they didn't play in that environment at Texas A&M, they've at least been in that environment before. They've been in a hostile environment. They're going to be ready for the moment. And that's like when you go back to Marcus Freeman, like that's one of the things that stands out about his teams is they're ready for the moment. Brian Kelly did not have that 2017 team ready for the moment. It was flat out ugly. And more times than not, I mean, all you got to do is look at the one-loss record that Brian Kelly had in big moments, big opponents, big games. Brian Kelly and his teams were not ready for the moment. Marcus Freeman's are. And that's why I think this year will be different.
Yeah, I mean, they've played in much tougher environments. On the road at Texas A&M, playing in the Coliseum, playing in a national championship, a Sugar Bowl down in Atlanta, a Orange Bowl in that same stadium. At that point, you just have to have proper preparation. Like where they're playing at doesn't matter. Notre Dame's going to be the better team. They just need to come out and play like it.
In or out, CJ Carr will break the first-year starting Notre Dame quarterback passing yardage record. That one comes from ND Sailor. I have no idea what the number is, but I would be in on this because I think he is more advanced. Like, let me see. Let me look something here.
What did Jimmy Clausen do?
That's what I was just getting ready to look up. Your initial thoughts without knowing that number.
No, I don't think he'll be better than Jimmy Clausen in his first year.
Now remember, Jimmy Clausen started in 2007 when Notre Dame was 3-9. He threw for 1,254 yards and 7 touchdowns.
Really? That's it?
Yeah. I think that CJ Carr will have at least double that.
Wow. Okay, never mind then. Man, his next year was incredible. The jump he made from that first year to second year was crazy.
I'm looking at
I guess
Ian
I wonder
Book
what
here.
the rookie.
Ian Book. Well, I guess, he played a lot there. Let me see. I looked at the wrong year. 2018 is where I need to go to. That's when he became the starter for most of the season. He threw for 2,628 yards.
What was that number again?
2,628. Let me look at Deshaun Kaiser as well, because obviously he didn't start the full season. He threw for 2,884.
Man.
So basically we're saying, is
3,000.
CJ Carr going to throw for 3,000 yards this season? My answer is yes.
Do we get to count bowl games?
Of course.
All
those numbers count for records now. There was a time when the bowl games didn't used to count for single season records. Like Barry Sanders has the all-time single season rushing record for a college player with a little over 2,600 yards. But I think he ran for like 225 yards in their bowl game that year, and that doesn't even count. Ashton Genty pushed to break that record this past season, but he had more games than Barry Sanders that season. But I digress. I'm in on this. I think that Carr is going to break the record. I think you're thinking too hard about this.
No, he's not going to get it. That's why I'm thinking too hard.
You don't think he'll have over 20? You don't think he'll have at least 2,900 yards?
I don't think he'll get to 3,000. I think with their running game, they're more than comfortable with letting that kind of be the thing. I know Marcus Freeman is, especially if they get up late into some of these games, they're not going to have CJ Carr throwing the ball all around in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but 3,000 yards really is like, that's not that much for a college quarterback anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if I did the math, 3,000, say they play 14 games, they win a playoff game and lose a playoff game.
Okay.
That's around 215 yards a game.
Does he even get to 2,900 then?
No.
I don't think there's any way he doesn't.
Really?
There's no way. Because, like, yeah, that running game is going to be good, but he's going to air it out, and it's going to help that running game as well. The way he throws the ball. I mean, 200 yards a game in a 12-game season, that's 2,400 yards right there, right?
Right.
Yeah. 300 is 3,600 yards. So he only needs what, like 2.25, something like that?
Yes. I thought Sam Hartman
average
would easily do that, and he didn't. Man, Riley Leonard threw for 2,800 last year, though.
But that was, again, in 16 games. Don't forget that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still going to be out. I'm not changing my mind.
You're out on it. Okay. Yeah, Sam Hartman. What did he end up throwing for? 26 something. Yeah, he threw for 26.89.
Yeah.
So we did our Notre Dame plays of the last 25 years earlier this week. Do you have one play to you that stands out above all the others?
It sounds cliche, but I kind of have to go with the Christian Gray interception against Penn State.
I like it.
I mean, that was such a huge play. It sends you to the national championship. You know, that the way that game was going back and forth at the end, just crazy. I would say that, and maybe like Manti's interception against Oklahoma.
Another good one. One that didn't come up the other day, and I don't know how we forgot this, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah taking that fumble away from Travis Etienne and taking it for the touchdown in the 2020 win over Clemson. Somebody brought this up on the board, and I don't know, like that completely, because I was trying to think of like the some of the defensive sequences, like most of like the defensive stuff that stood out to me about that game was like, you know, it was like the sacks in overtime, but you know, neither one of them stood out as like, you know, like a big, like the memorable highlight type play. But Owusu-Koramoah, that pitch play to Etienne, it bounces off his chest and right into the arms of JOK, and he takes it in for the touchdown. I mean, that's got to be one of the best defensive plays in recent memory, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I forgot about that until you brought it. And that's the hard part about this is like it's a lot of games over 25 years. So thinking about all of them is tough. I mean, I would put Jeremiah's Love's run against Indiana on that list somewhere. Trying to think. I would put Deshaun Kaiser's throw to beat Virginia to Will Fuller.
Yep.
On that list. I would put the Brady Quinn to Samardzija to beat UCLA on that list.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. See, what's hard for me is like I want the play to also be meaningful at the same time, like in a big time situation.
Well, and that's how, you know, like some people brought up Dane Christ hitting Kyle Rudolph for like it was like a 95-yard touchdown pass against Michigan in 2010. Well, Michigan ended up winning that game, and it feels like you really only remember the big plays in the games that your team wins, right? Like,
yeah,
make a big play, like with you know, with one notable exception, I would say, and that would be no, never mind, because the OBJ play, the Giants did beat the Cowboys that night.
They did.
Yeah. But that ultimately was like, he was known for that play for the rest of his career, but what did the rest of his career really amount to? But everybody talked about that play.
Can plays that went against Notre Dame be on this list? Like the Bush push would be on that list.
Well, yeah, and that's no. Like we're talking about Notre Dame plays. Yeah. And that's kind of what sparked this was ESPN put out a top 25 plays of the last 25 years, and the Bush push was the only play Notre Dame adjacent play that made that list. And so we were talking about the actual Notre Dame plays over the last 25 years. But everybody remembers the Bush push. What's that?
That the throw that should have beat Florida State should be on.
Somebody brought that one up. The pass to Robinson that got overturned. But again, it got overturned, just like the David Grimes pass against Stanford that should have been a touchdown that wasn't.
Yep. I would put the Chris Fink catch against Michigan on that list.
Good one.
How
about Miles Boykin? Ian Book to Miles Boykin against LSU in the Music
City
Bowl
game. Yeah, yep. That would be on there. Kyron Williams play against Clemson would be on there.
Yeah.
Who did? Was it Tony? The running back between Kyron Williams and was it Josh Adams? No, that would have been too much. I think he caught a screen. Tony Jones against USC, and he took it all the way down the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
I think that play would be on the list. Honestly, Xavier Watts' interception against USC would be on that list, just because of.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it feels like if you're doing those, like you have to like combine Christian Gray and Xavier Watts against USC.
But the only reason Xavier Watts is more memorable is because as he was going down the USC sideline, like that's something you play
right
to hype up your guys. You know what I mean? They're like, that's always going to be on a Notre Dame highlight reel 20 years from now. You know, him looking over to the USC sideline like that. So that puts it on that list for me. Honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I think Jeremiah Love's run against Penn State belongs on that list as well.
I think so. I don't think that's crazy at all. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Like a lot of people might put that number one. But that's the thing is like we did the top plays of last season, and you can easily get to 15 pretty easy, you know, in terms of and we left some off. Like we didn't even talk about Jeremiah Love's like the fake punt against Georgia Tech or the fake field goal throw by Tyler Buckner against Georgia Tech. We didn't even talk about those.
You could include some of those plays against Duke when Sam Hartman was quarterback.
4th and 16 came up.
4th and 16.
Hartman scrambling for 16 yards. And I brought this up. Very similar, like you talked about, like the UCLA Quinn to Samardzija. And on that play, Quinn is kind of flushed out of the pocket in the same way Sam Hartman was flushed out of the pocket to his right and, you know, kept his eyes downfield and he found Samardzija through some traffic. Hartman wasn't able to find the open guy he was looking for, so he ends up tucking and scrambling instead. But like on both of those plays, they kind of, you know, got flushed out and went to the right. And Hartman obviously made a huge play with his legs, biggest play that he made at Notre Dame anyway with his legs. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles are going to be teammates again this summer for Team USA after both players were named today to the 12-player AmeriCup team.
It's juicy, and even more juicier because, I mean, you know there's bad blood, right? And so now you're sticking them together on the same team again, something that, you know, they've obviously have a lot of past experience with. But I guess I'm just kind of curious to see how those frustrations work out. You know, like is it maybe a good thing to stick them in a room so they can maybe, you know, hash out and get those.
Have to be around each other?
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, when you break up, what is it? You get closure, right? But they're getting closure by kind of being around each other again. And maybe that'll open up more doors to be like, yeah, you really pissed me off. No, you really pissed me off. You know, like sometimes it's like, it just needs to kind of come out and you need to air it out and that's it. And I hope that's what it is because I think both of them are great players. But obviously it just didn't work with them playing together and that's okay at the end of the day. Right. But I will say with this, and kind of, I don't know if you saw the other night with the Fever and the Phoenix
we
Sun.
We talked about it yesterday.
There's a lot of hostility going around the women's basketball game right now, and to be honest with you, I'm here for it. Like I see some of these people are like, oh, the WNBA game is trash, or they need to clean it up, and it's like, we don't care when MLB players fight each other. We don't care when NFL guys fight each other. We don't care when NBA guys fight each other. Like, what? Just because they're women, they can't get fired up and emotional too? Like, I'm here for it. Sophie Cunningham defended her player. Like she got, and it's not like the foul was that hard. Yeah, she grabbed her, and you could have probably fouled a little bit easier, but
yeah, I mean, in that case,
she's setting the tone.
Sophie Cunningham had to do that because that was the reason, a big part of the reason she was brought in was because all that crap was going on last year, and Caitlin Clark didn't have enough teammates who were standing up for her, and they brought in Cunningham because they knew that that's the kind of player that she was, and she sent a message with that play to the rest of the league that you're not going to mess with Caitlin Clark. And that's what you have to do. Like, she's the enforcer on that team. That's what they brought her in for. So I've got zero problem with her doing that. And, I've got zero problem with Marina Mabry because she was sticking up for her player when the first scrap started up. So
it was just funny because it didn't need to happen. That girl, after Caitlin Clark got poked, did not need to come over and chest bump her. Like, that's kind of what started it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so everything was just a domino effect after that. But I've got nothing wrong with teammates sticking up for teammates in a clean fashion, Like,
yeah.
It's not like Sophie Cunningham grabbed her by the hair and drug her down while she was going up.
No, it was just a hard foul.
Just a hard foul.
She ended up, it ended up being upgraded to a flagrant. If it wasn't already she got, I think, some kind of fine or something. But hey, you live with that. She's not suspended. Keep going forward.
Well, and it's just annoying because what do so many people say right now about basketball? Oh, it's not the same as it used to be. It's not physical. And then something happens in the WNBA and everyone's like, oh, this is garbage. It's like, no, I'm here for it.
And, in terms of, we kind of got sidetracked there a little bit. In terms of Hidalgo and Miles, I would definitely love to be there and see what that dynamic is like. And what this, because look, they still played great together for most of the season last year. And, things obviously didn't work out the way anyone wanted. But, we all saw that video. What's it been, a month and a half ago now from over there at Purcell Pavilion? That there's something there. And, it was kind of crazy enough just that they were both trying out for this team. But you had a feeling, as good as both of them are, Hidalgo and Miles, that they were probably both going to end up, making this team. I don't know how many games they're going to play. They're playing this AmeriCup, FIBA Women's AmeriCup, June 28th through July 6th in Santiago, Chile. So they're probably going to be together for at least 4 games, if not 5, something like that. So it's going to be interesting. I would love to be a fly on the wall or even a camera on the wall and see how all this stuff plays out. ND Sailor asks if the Notre Dame women's basketball team is done with adding any players for the year. They are. And they're practicing this summer. And as a matter of fact, look for some interviews coming up this summer in the very near future. Kansas City Chiefs received their AFC championship rings this week, but Travis Kelce said he's only interested in Super Bowl rings. So do you buy or sell anything besides a Super Bowl win a failure for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think when you're the Chiefs, anything but a Super Bowl is going to be a failure at this point. You've already set the bar. You've already gone to so many consecutive AFC championship games. You won, X amount of Super Bowls. Like, as bad as it sounds, like I don't mind that mentality from Travis Kelce. Like, it's really, especially kind of where he's at in his career. Like, he's got a good maybe 2 years left, and so it's for a team like the Jaguars, an AFC championship would be, electric. But when you're the Kansas City Chiefs, expectations change. And so I appreciate the mentality at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's 35 now. He's going to be 36 in the middle of the season. It's pretty much. I think that every year is Super Bowl or bust for them, especially as long as you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes together. Like that's got to be their mentality. They've obviously dominated the AFC in their time together. The question is going to be like, are they going to buck the trend? There's only been one team in the last, what is it, like 20 plus years to lose a Super Bowl and go back to the Super Bowl the next year. So are the Chiefs going to feel that? Are they going to be the one that kind of bucks that trend? But if you're Travis Kelce and where you are in your career, that's got to be your attitude. Like there's only one goal, and this is a team that has won 3 of the 5 Super Bowls that they've been in. So it's not enough. It's not enough just to win the AFC. It's not enough just to get to the playoffs. It's all about winning championships. And honestly, when I saw the headline, like Bernie is saying, Kelce needs to put a ring on Taylor. When I heard that, the quote from him that he's saying, all I care about is Super Bowl rings, I thought that the question had something to do with this, like whether or not he was going to propose to Taylor Swift or not. But apparently that didn't come up. It was about AFC championship rings. Someone was asking, Toonses, there it is. Who owns the Chiefs? It is still the Hunt family that owns the Chiefs. I need to pull this up here. Jon Gruden. He is anti-clapping. Jesse sent me this. Don't believe me? Have a listen.
Take this clapping anymore. Clapping is for Broadway musicals. It's for tennis. It's for golf. It's not for a snap count. I don't want to see one more clap on a football field. It's ridiculous. That's what cavemen did before electricity when they were hungry. Oh, if your quarterback is clapping, boycott the game or boo the offensive coordinator. I even had these T-shirts made. No more clapping.
No more clapping. Jon Gruden doesn't want quarterbacks clapping for their snap count. Do you buy or sell it?
I actually buy this at the end of the day, but my only question would be, or sorry, no, I answered my own question. I buy this, and I think so. There's 2 things to this question. I think the first and foremost, why I took so much, why this question intrigued me is because there's a video that goes with this, and it's basically Riley Leonard, Jackson Dart, and a handful of other guys just on loop, on loop, on loop.
Uh-huh.
And I think the main reason this came up is because, he did that college quarterback camp this past offseason. And I think a lot of guys came in, and he, on every single one of them, he asked them to go through their snap count. And when Jackson Dart came in, he said, all right, show me your snap count. And he just went, and he was like, that's it? And he was like, yeah.
I remember that now that you say that. Yeah.
And so I think where Gruden is coming from this is it's just really lazy because no one in the NFL is going to use that snap count. And I think it's hard to teach those quarterbacks coming into the NFL a snap count if they never had to do it in college. And it's something, honestly, that quarterbacks will struggle with. And it's something that takes a lot of time to learn. But the amount of information that you can get off in a snap count is really important. And so to go from nothing but clapping and almost having to call plays in between your snap count is a huge difference at the end of the day. And so I just think it's a disservice to a lot of these college quarterbacks to not properly prepare them for the NFL.
It's kind of like in college, most pitching coaches, like 99% of pitching coaches or head coaches, just depending, are calling pitches from the dugout, and the catcher, like they've got the radio devices and all that kind of stuff now. Like the catcher is like he doesn't learn how to call a game, and like most of them don't. There are very few college catchers who do that, and it's kind of the same with what you're talking about with quarterbacks. You're not learning how to do a hard count. There's a lot that you're leaving out when you're doing that. Honestly, like the clap thing to me has just never. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why it's become such a thing.
It's lazy.
I think so too.
And the question got brought up. Doesn't it help in a loud environment? Not really. You got the silent count, and usually you're going off the guard or center motion and the silent snap count, right? And so I don't know. It's not very professional football, again, because of all the cadences you have to go through. You're never going to get anyone on a hard count. You're never going to get any offside penalties.
Right.
And again, like you're conveying so much information while going through a snap count. And so it's like one extreme to the next, right? Like you're on this side where there's completely nothing. And then you get to the NFL and it's like, these are very complex, like, snap counts basically.
I would bet you CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie's going to be clapping in Miami in game 1, though.
Yeah. So that's the question though. Like, do you knock Denbrock for something like this? And like, what's a better alternative?
Learning to use your vocal range. I don't know. I've never played quarterback, so it's a little bit foreign to me. Maybe that's a question we can have for Mike Denbrock once training camp starts, and he can tell us the pros and cons of each of them.
You should buy that no clapping shirt, wear it, and ask him.
Wear it in that day.
Yeah.
No clapping. By the way, Mike.
Why do you clap? You think there could be something a little bit more creative?
Jon Gruden disagrees. All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate all the questions in, we out, and appreciate all the participation in the chat tonight as well. We will be back tomorrow, of course. We've got a Rapid Fire Friday. I believe we've got a 3-man booth. Are we all going to be here?
I will not be here tonight.
Oh, you're bailing. You're bailing. Of course. All right.
It'll be you and Vince.
Jesse's sitting this one out. Vince will be back tomorrow. Absolutely, Bernie and everybody else. Hit that like button before you leave, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.